So in a non-removable type of discontinuity or the discontinuity of second kind, limit of fx does not exist. So it is impossible for us to make the function fx continuous even by redefining it. That's why we cannot remove the discontinuity from the function fx. Now it is further categorized into the finite discontinuity. Now what is a finite discontinuity? If the left hand limit and the right hand limit are not equal but are finite numbers, then it is called as the finite discontinuity of the second kind. So in this kind of discontinuity, the left hand limit is not equal to the right hand limit. That is, the limit does not exist, but the limits are actually finite numbers. That's why the word finite is used, and this is a second type of discontinuity because LHL is not equal to the RHL. Let's see an example. X minus the greatest integer function of x at the integral points. So if fx is x minus the greatest integer function of x, then at all the integral points we see that LHL is not equal to the RHL, but these are actually finite numbers, thus this comes under the category of finite discontinuity. Similarly, the function 1 by 1 plus 3 to the power of x at the point x equal to 0 also comes under the finite discontinuity because we see that the left hand limit is equal to 1 and the right hand limit is equal to 0. So we say that LHL is not equal to the RHL, and so it is a non-removable type of discontinuity. But we also see that LHL is equal to 1 and RHL is equal to 0 are finite numbers. So this comes under the category of finite discontinuity of the second kind. The second is the infinite discontinuity. So if the left hand limit is not equal to the right hand limit, and if any one of these limits is equal to infinity, then it is an infinite discontinuity of the second type. So consider the function 1 by x minus 2 at x equal to 2. So we see that this has an infinite discontinuity because when x is just less than 2, then it is close to minus infinity, and when x is just greater than 2, then the limit tends to plus infinity. Thus this is an infinite discontinuity where LHL is not equal to RHL. Similarly, a to the power of tan x at x equal to pi by 2 is an example of infinite discontinuity. The third is the oscillatory discontinuity. Now any point of discontinuity which is not a point of finite discontinuity or an infinite discontinuity is called as a point of oscillatory discontinuity. An example of this is x equal to 0 is an oscillatory discontinuity of the function sine of 1 by x. Now let's see what do we mean by jump of discontinuity. Now this is a term very frequently used when we talk about continuous or discontinuous function. Now when we talk of discontinuity of the second kind, then the modulus of RHL minus LHL is called as the jump of discontinuity. The modulus of right hand limit minus the left hand limit is called as the jump of discontinuity. Now in the case of second type of discontinuity, we have already seen that the left hand limit is not equal to the right hand limit. So when we take out the non-negative difference between the RHL and LHL, then we call it as the jump of discontinuity. If a function has finite number of jumps in the given interval, then it is called as piecewise continuous function in that interval. So if any function has some finite number of jumps in a given interval, then we call it as the piecewise continuous function. So once again, the modulus of RHL minus LHL is called as the jump of discontinuity, and if a function has finite number of jumps in a given interval, then it is called as piecewise continuous function. Now let's look at the properties of continuous functions. If I say that fx and gx are two continuous functions at the point x equal to a, then c into fx and c into gx are also continuous at the point x equal to a. Your c is any number. So if we multiply fx and gx with any number, then c into fx and c into gx are also continuous at the point x equal to a. The second is fx plus minus gx and fx into gx are continuous at the point x equal to a. That is, the sum and difference and the product of two continuous functions is a continuous function at the point x equal to a. The third is fx by gx is continuous at x equal to a if g of a is not equal to 0. So as such we can say that if we multiply any two continuous functions with any number, then the resultant product is a continuous function. Similarly, the addition or the subtraction of two continuous functions is a continuous function, and the same holds for the product of two continuous functions. And fx by gx is continuous at x equal to a if g of a is not equal to 0. Now students, let's look at a very important theorem which is called as the intermediate value theorem. The theorem says that let fx is a continuous function on the interval I, and a and b are any two points of I. Now if L is a number between f of a and f of b, then there exists a number c between a and b such that f of c is equal to L. So this theorem says that if fx is a continuous function between the points a and b, and if L is any number between f of a and f of b, then there is a number c between a and b such that the value of f of c is equal to the value L. Let's try to understand it more clearly. Now let us say that this is the graph of y equal to f of x, and this is a continuous function. Now if I take any two points a and b, and such that fx is continuous in the interval a to b. Now this is the value of f of a, and this is the value of f of b. These are the extreme points, and f of a and f of b are the values of function fx at the points a and b respectively. Now if we say that L is any point between f of a and f of b, so L lies between these two values. Then the intermediate value theorem says that there is a point c between a and b for which f of c is equal to L. Because fx is a continuous function, f of c is equal to L. Now once again, if we have any function y equal to fx continuous between a and b, and the value of function at the point a and b are f of a and f of b. Now L is any value that is between f of a and f of b. The intermediate value theorem says that there is a point c between a and b such that f of c is equal to L. Now based on intermediate value theorem, we come to a very important point. If fx is a continuous function on a comma b, and if f of a and f of b are of opposite signs, then there is one x equal to c between a and b for which fx is equal to 0. Now it says that if fx is a continuous function in the interval a comma b, and such that f of a and f of b are of opposite signs, or f of a into f of b is negative, then there is any point x equal to c between points a and b for which fx is equal to 0. Now let us say that this is a function y equal to fx. Now we see that this is a point x equal to a for which f of a is negative, and this is a point b for which f of b is positive. Now from this point we see that there is a point c between a and b such that f of x is equal to 0, or we can say that the c is the root of fx at which fx is equal to 0, or we can say that the fx intersects the x-axis at the point x equal to c. Now this comes directly from the intermediate value theorem, because if I take the value of L equal to 0, then says that there exists a point c between a and b for which f of c is equal to L, and which is equal to 0. And definitely L lies between f of a and f of b, because f of a and f of b are of opposite signs. That's why L lies between f of a and f of b, and so c is a point that lies between a and b for which f of c is equal to 0. Now let's look at the continuity of composite functions. Now it says that if a function y equal to fx is continuous at the point x equal to a, and z equal to g of y is continuous at the point y equal to f of a, then we can say that the composite function z equal to g of f of x is continuous at the point x equal to a. Now let's try to see an example. This appeared in IITJ in 1983, and it says that fx is equal to 1 plus x when x is greater or equal to 0 and less than equal to 2, and is equal to 3 minus x when x is greater than 2 and less than equal to 3. Determine the form of gx equal to f of fx, and hence find the points of discontinuity of g if any. So in this problem we have been given fx and we have to form the function f of x, and hence from f of fx we have to find the points of discontinuity. So let's try to solve it. Given that fx is equal to 1 plus x when x is greater or equal to 0 and less than equal to 2, and fx is equal to 3 minus x when x is greater than 2 and less than equal to 3. Now in the first step we have to try to find out f of fx, and then in the second step we will try to find out the points of discontinuity. So we write f of fx equal to 1 plus fx when fx is greater or equal to 0 and less than equal to 2, and 3 minus fx when fx is greater than 2 and less than equal to 3. Now we have already seen how to find out the value of f of fx. Here we are going to use a graphical method because it makes the solution quite easy. So for that we first of all draw the graph of fx. So the graph of fx is this. Between the points 0 and 2, fx is 1 plus x. So this is 1 plus x and is equal to 3 minus x when x is greater than 2 and less than equal to 3. So this represents the graph of phi equal to fx. Now we take two cases, that is fx is between 0 and 2 and fx is between 2 and 3. So for the case number 1, fx is greater or equal to 0 and less than equal to 2, we see that there are actually two parts of fx. So first part is 1 plus x for x lying between 0 and 1, and 3 minus x when x lies between 2 and 3. So what we do is we write 1 plus x when x lies between 0 and 1, and 1 plus 3 minus x when x lies between 2 and 3. And similarly for case 2, that is fx between 2 and 3. For this range we see that fx is equal to 1 plus x. Therefore we write it as 3 minus 1 plus x when x lies between 1 and 2. So when x lies between 1 and 2, we see that fx is between 2 and 3, and so we put the